All right. No show yesterday. Scheduling conflict, among other things. Bottom line is our season is over. Done with. 2019 is in the books. And we have a new champion. Well, he's new, but not new. He's going to have to start growing other appendages to start wearing these rings. He's going to have a cock ring before we all know it. Let's put it that way.
I would probably wear that cock ring.
I bet you would. Speaking of which, he's on the phone with us right now, or with me. Chris Walker, congratulations, first of all. 2019 season is yours. You snuck in at second place right before the end of the regular season, and you never let it go, and ultimately you jumped into first place. How's it feeling, man?
It felt like I got away with one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I did leak into second place because Robbie played Cross the last week and couldn't put up enough points. So I got the beat bye week instead of Robbie, and then Robbie had a letdown again against me in the playoffs.
Right.
And then turned out that second seed was the difference in tiebreaker between me and Shane. It's crazy. Like if Robbie, actually let me put it this way. So Cross was considering just completely tanking so that Robbie could get the bye week.
Right.
You have to wonder what's going on in Crosshead, because if he tanks, at the very least, if I play Shane, I don't win. That's how close it was.
Right.
Man, no, I would have played that game differently if I didn't have the tiebreaker, but still.
Right.
I can't remember a championship that was that close in terms of, man, I almost didn't make the playoffs. That's how competitive it was. Now, the championship game itself, yeah, I remember a close one when, who was it? It was one of those first base outfielders for the Cardinals. I'm sure Croft has his name etched in his brain because I started that joker and got like a pinch hit homer and on Sunday Night Baseball, and that was the difference in the championship. But I feel like I got away with one. I wanted Shane to beat me. I felt like Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now. I'm just waiting for somebody to kill me. Because it would have been a good story to have a back-to-back champion.
Right.
But it wasn't meant to be.
So, speaking of that, all right, so I didn't know until it was mentioned in the chat that both of you faced each other in the regular season, and both of y'all walked away with a 5-4 victory. Therefore, a tie, which is what you ended with, swayed in your favor only because you were ranked second place.
That's right.
So, man to man, do you feel like, okay, yes, still, I earned it?
Do I feel I earned it? I'm conflicted, I'll say that.
Well,
I'm conflicted.
uh,
No, how about this? Look at it this way. I feel I earned it because I got the better of Shane in a trade involving Garrett Cole. I mean, heads up, it's decisions like that make the difference.
I did not realize that you got Garrett Cole from him in a trade?
Right.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Right.
huge. That's huge. Who did he get?
I sent him Trevor Bauer and Rich Hill and a batter that I can't... Oh, yeah, Matt Carpenter. And he gave me Garrett Cole and Aaron Hicks.
Oh.
Right?
Now, I mean, yeah, you know, when Aaron Hicks goes down, it's like a huge throat punch, but damn, like, he's Cy Young worthy. And Rich Hill is who Rich Hill is. He will never have a full 162-game healthy season. Never.
Right.
He will never have
You
it.
kind of know what you're getting with him.
Yep. And
You
Trevor
needed
Bauer, I
at
mean,
the
he,
time.
Trevor put up the numbers that he did last season, but and everybody was on the hopes that he would just turn it around. Like eventually he was going to get out of his own way, and Cleveland had had enough with his ass. Trading him away might have even cost them the postseason. Like,
That's a very good point.
I mean, he still had some of the stuff. I mean, he had flares of what he had last season when pitching with the Reds, but they were like, we've had so much of you that we just don't want anymore. Get the hell out of here. And shit, man. I mean, hell, Jose Ramirez jumped in there and started firing off home runs right towards the end, and it was so close, but they got eliminated. It was like in the last few games, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. The only last 2 games of the season did they have nothing to play for.
Yeah. If I was a fan of that team, I definitely would be questioning that leadership for sure and being like, did we really need to get rid of Trevor Bauer? Could we really not have used him? Did Yasiel Puig really help us that much? So, that's for...
Speaking of Trevor Bauer, the Reds just hired this pitching coach or director of pitching or something who has been a long-time trainer of Trevor Bauer.
Yeah.
You have to wonder, there's a lot of respect for this guy in the industry, and you have to wonder if they didn't lose a chance at a pretty good pitching coach too.
Yeah, right.
Which might have turned Bauer around and all that.
So are you okay with waiting until the draft next season to put that Franklin, or do I need to make 2 special trips?
Nah, I don't want to inconvenience you. I would like to display it in the office a little bit.
Okay.
It's pretty nice to have my name on the Franklin twice.
Right. Yeah. Well, again, I'll ask Shane. I don't know. It's not going to inconvenience me. I just need to find the moment to ride out there, or Shane and I can meet up or something. So.
I don't think that's your responsibility.
Well, I got that, but hey, I know him and I know you, and fine. You don't want to see me? Fuck you, bitch.
we can make a day of it.
Yeah,
doesn't matter to me.
All right. So I got a few questions here, little talking points or whatever, because I didn't want to just go off of a whim. So I saw a lot of banter going back and forth. I gotta say honestly, about Wednesday going into the matchup with Reeder, I really just stopped paying attention to. I mean, I was setting my lineup, but he jumped out to I think a 4 home run lead. Alfaro hit one. We were in New York, watched the Mets game. They were up 10-0 in the 8th inning when we left. I get on the fucking subway and I saw they are now 10-3, and I'm like, who the hell? And of fucking course it was Alfaro who hit a 2-run home run. I'm like, God damn it, man, I can't fucking win. So, it is what it is. Whatever. That's what makes it fun. I mean, it came closer towards the end of the week, but I just couldn't keep pace, man. People were dropping like flies when you lose Ronald Acuna in your last week of whatever, playing for 7th place. Shit tends to just continue to roll downhill, and especially with a lot of the players that I had on my roster are all on playoff contending teams. So that players were getting days off. Mark Hanna got one, and Freddie Freeman got 1 or 2, and so I was struck. Robinson Cano came in, batted twice, and then didn't see him on that Wednesday game, so I had no first baseman in the next day or that day. So, anyways, man, no complaints. Hats off to Reeder, man. I mean, that's why I kind of like the playoffs. You see the bottom tier teams such as himself, and he's like, hey, I rose to the top of the consolation and I'm 7th place, man, so everybody else can look at these balls.
A lot of respect for Reeder for playing with heart, man.
Oh man, I love Reeder. I hope he never gives up, never leaves. I want him to stay every year. He brings them. So that dude's in it to win it.
The can of beans?
Huh? Oh no, I'm not gonna. That kind of got shot down, man. I posed the idea out there, and everybody was like, I don't know. I just got negative feedback, so I'm like, okay, fuck y'all.
Ah, give him the can of beans. It's funny.
I mean, somebody hits me up on my Twitter page, and maybe I'll make it one day. Maybe I'll spray paint a big can of beans. I don't know. I thought it was.
That you got a spray paint. Just give him a can of beans. It's fucking funny.
Okay, all right, we'll see.
I'll be fine.
Yeah. So again, going back to like talking points next season. Obviously you're coming back. You got to defend your title. Rules. What do you think, man? You think there's going to be some changes in scoring and what's going on with that? What do you see this this is an ever evolving thing nowadays, especially it feels like that Yahoo and us as the fantasy baseball players, that as new stats form, almost it seems like every season fantasy players have to evolve as well in their league. So I remember when we started out, we had what was the one where, like, if they committed an error that it dropped fielding percentage. Yeah, that's not even I don't see anybody like even discussing that anymore.
Because it's a fucking stupid stat.
Exactly.
We played with it for several years, and we realized, first baseman and the jokers that don't field a lot of balls, they get 1,000%.
Yeah.
Whereas the shortstops who field a ton of balls, they may be great defenders, but they're going to make some errors every now and then.
Right.
And they have a low set. So just roster more of them heavy-set motherfuckers, and you're going to have a good fielding percentage. It's a dumb stat.
Yeah, I agree. So, again, I guess, it's going to be a loaded offseason in terms of discussion when what do we feel moving forward is worthy of retaining. So...
Well, let me answer your question with a question. Do you think we're going to go to 10 teams next year? Ray is out, right?
It's going to be some convincing.
Ray's out.
Ray says she's out.
She made a convincing argument to me, and again, I want to encourage her to be a co-owner. And Shane made the comment that, she was a co-owner this year too.
Yeah, dude. That's why I got to convince her to come back. I need a farm system.
Fuck you.
Yeah, that's good. No, but okay. So if Ray's out, then you could see: is Borden come back? Is Sean coming back? Is Reader coming back? Which it seems after that charge for 7th place, it doesn't seem like that.
Yeah, I don't think Reader's going anywhere.
But I mean, if we're going to 10 teams, then we've got some things we can do to improve the playoff experience, because I know it's always just a war of attrition. We can probably set the playoffs at 2 weeks earlier.
Right.
And then that squeezes the regular season, which might make the regular season more like a round robin, because it's always tough for 10-team league in a 22-week season to get a round robin.
Right.
Anyways, you kind of get my idea. There's that as a potential change to the league. There's also limiting moves.
Right.
So in other words, we're not limiting pitching moves anymore. I think Shane wants to limit it to 45 moves total.
Okay.
Which basically means 2 a week. And if you shrink the regular season, it's going to feel more like 60 moves than it will 45.
All right.
Then I think you've got some people wondering about wins and thinking about going back to quality starts. I think people are going to be dissatisfied either way.
Right.
I'll be trying to think of something creative, but there just hasn't been really a good answer for that. Can you think of any other rule changes that I've missed?
Not off the top of my head.
There's some talk about getting rid of catchers. Eric says, I'm not coming back until you get rid of relievers, which is the biggest bunch of bullshit I have ever heard. They're a part of the game in real life. It's fun to have them in the fantasy game, too.
I agree that they are still a part of the game. I just don't feel like, I don't know, I feel like some teams are starting to adopt the Tampa Bay, idea of putting a reliever in at the beginning, and really how does that benefit you in terms of saves and holds, and then there's like the Kenley Jansen effect. Like, you have a relief pitcher come in, you're cruising along with a sub 3 ERA, and then here comes one relief pitcher in for less than an inning, and he throws up 108. And it might be fucking Saturday or something. You can't recoup from that on a Sunday if you only have like one starting pitcher. So.
I think you're overrating the impact of a reliever bench sitting as compared to a starting pitcher bench sitting. And there have been several weeks, it seemed like more weeks than normal, where relievers would shit the bed. And yet, I was still number one in ERA. And yes, you could argue, you had probably the top three pitchers in the whole major league. But
yeah.
That's kind of the idea when you bring in replacement level pitchers. They drag your ERA down way more than a reliever ever could.
Right.
With twice the innings, so twice the impact.
Right. Well, I can say, going back, looking at your, sorry, not to switch back into thing, but I'm looking at your matchup, and you were pretty much dominated, except for OBP. When it came down to, he just 20 home runs. My God.
Crazy.
That was nuts. Soler, I can't think that Soler might not be a top outfielder that gets drafted next year. He was ranked 18th, and he was free waiver wire pickup. But this was so crazy that 10 scoring for our league, he takes all the bats, you take all the pitch. And I think I've said it 500 times on a podcast. You skate by with bullshit bats and elite pitching, and you grab up 2 stats from the batting, 1 stat, whatever, and dominate the pitching. You pick 4, grab 1, beat somebody 5-4. Rode that monster all season long, put you in second place, and I can't help but hate you, and then just kind of stand in the shadows what am I going to do next season? I'm going to adopt this fucking philosophy for real. Because I don't know, man. I could, I'm looking at your batters right now. Who the fuck would I want on my team of your batters? Based off of their stats. It's maybe Carlos Santana, and then I'm going to take a
Josh Bell.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, but I drafted that motherfucker, though. So,
You should want Bo Bichette.
Yeah, you didn't have him at the end, but and depending on what Gio Urshela does, moving forward,
You should want Conforto.
Yep, I agree with that. Yeah, he put up most of your...
See, I'm starting to put some names down.
Uh-huh,
right?
Yeah.
You should want Edman. Edman's going to be an interesting piece. You should want Mitch Garver and Will Smith. They're top 5 catchers.
Yeah, Will Smith is definitely going to be one that's grabbed
up. You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And I'll make 2 counterpoints. Just look at the week before against Robbie. Robbie has an all-star batting lineup led by Mookie Betts, and I was able to sneak away some batting stats from him.
No, I had Mookie Betts.
Well, yes, I agree. And not to mention that Robbie had the edge on strikeouts. I can't remember if I won wins or not. I think I did win wins, but more often than not, I lose that category because it's so random.
Right.
So it may seem like I sweep the pitching stats a whole bunch, but really I end up sweeping 3, and I have to compete for some other stats somewhere else, my batting is not full of scrubs. We've won some categories. I've just relied on the fact that batting seems to be a little more volatile than pitching.
Right. Yeah, that I'm pulling up you and Robbie's matchup now, and yeah, that was a close one too, man. 3.07 ERA to your 3.04. I mean, but here you go. Here's my point, and here's Eric's point. Craig Kimbrell has a 16.20 ERA. If you eliminate him from that equation, I guarantee you, Robbie's going to either have a better score than you in ERA, or he's going to take the stat. Like, he's just going to take the stat. And then
So
with
you're
that,
suggesting he put a starting pitcher in there instead of Kimbrell? If so, which starting pitcher? A replacement level starting pitcher? You think
what I'm saying
pitcher's
is
gonna do
like
better?
he's got a 16.20 ERA, a 2.40 WHIP, and he only gave him 4 strikeouts. So he beat you by 10. So subtract those stats, and we've got ourselves a different ballgame. That's all I'm
You're
saying.
cherry picking based on a reliever that has been outstanding. Yes, he struggled this year, but I ask you, if you are saying get rid of relievers, which starting pitcher will Robbie benefit from? And the answer is no one, because there's not a replacement level pitcher out there that's going to give you better stats over the long run.
Well, I mean, but we're talking. Well, I don't know what he had all over the season. I mean, we can't go really based off of what he did this season. I mean, shit, dude. This season alone, he had a 6.53 ERA. So, I mean,
that's right.
Yeah. So, Craig Kimbrell was not reliable in any form or fashion.
Okay,
but last season, I mean,
cherry picking.
But
Pick a guy like John Hader who didn't have a season like you did last year, but he still did really good and way better than any middling starter that you could find.
And then I go to your team. Like, look at Jansen of yours that week. Yeah, he got you a save that got you the category, but 8.10 on the ERA, only 3 strikeouts. It's like, really, what, he almost cost you the ERA stat.
Well, that should hold more weight to my argument that I appreciate relievers in spite of it.
Well, again, like I said, it's a good argument moving forward, I think. And I already know where you're going to argue, and I'm not going to try to. I don't have, in my opinion, I don't have that big of a way to sway you away from it. I just know that I don't like relief pitchers. I.e., look at my fucking team all season long. I led the league in no saves. I had 3 saves, and I got one from a dude named Steven Matz that was a starting pitcher that got moved to the bullpen because he was sucking. And I was like,
You have the right to punt that.
And what's funny is I think I even won that week in saves, all because of that. But, that was crazy. But maybe not. I think it was against Nicole. I can't remember. But bottom line is, you have an argument. I think you're on the side. You're kind of it feels like you're on a desert, and the rest of us are chanting, get rid of them, get rid of them. But the fact remains is that is a part of, baseball. It's a huge part. Especially when,
Let me put it this way. You'd have to remove relief pitcher as a starting position to get me to stop using relievers, and even then I might not stop. You're not going to stop me from using relievers. Fucking period. And if you remove saves and holds from the equation, I'll still start relievers because they're better at ratios than starting pitchers. So if you think you can legislate relievers out of the ball game, you're out of your goddamn mind.
Strong words from a strong man. All right, so I still just to get off of fantasy. All right.
Yeah.
Tonight and tomorrow, who you got? What you got? I want to talk baseball just for a minute, and then I got to hang up with you. And hey, I got to talk to your counterpart. So tonight, who you got?
Oh my God. Okay, so it's Nationals and
The Brewers.
Who is it?
Scherzer versus Woodruff.
Oh man, you say those two pitchers, and I'm like, God, that's an obvious pick, right?
Right.
But the Brewers they've got a really good defense, and their batting has been good for 2 years now. I don't know if Scherzer's all the way back yet.
Right.
If he is, they clearly win. But I'm going to go Brewers.
Oh, wow. Because of their hot streak?
Yeah, and I don't think Max something's not right.
Right. Yeah, he threw up some grapefruits, couple of matchups there for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so tomorrow night, Tampa Bay versus the Oakland Athletics. Who you got?
Oh, man. Who's starting for the Rays? Do you know?
I do not, but I can maybe tell you here in a second. I do know who's starting for the Rays. Charlie Morton, of course.
That's interesting.
Versus Sean Manaea. Sean Manaea. Manaea.
That's interesting. I'm going to go the Athletics. I think they've got a deeper batting roster. The Rays are no scrubs.
Right.
And Charlie Morton hasn't been that 2 ERA guy that he has been in the past this year. So
agreed.
Yeah, I think the Athletics, are they playing it in Oakland? I think they are, right?
I believe so. Yep, Tampa Bay at Oakland.
I'm going with the Athletics.
Okay. Moving forward, I just want to fast forward. Who you got in the World Series? Who you got for the National League?
You have to pick the Astros and Dodgers, right?
Yeah, sure.
I tell you what, in my heart, I'll be rooting for the Rays, again, because of how they use relievers and how they platoon. They get the most out of everything they're afforded.
So no hope for the other babies, the other teams. No Yankees. Yankees, I feel like their pitching is not going to be there.
You know what?
How long is
The
this
Yankees
fucking
is an
podcast?
interesting because they finally got Severino back.
Right.
It was a huge jolt to the pitching staff.
Right.
And Severino has been pitching lights out.
Right.
Come here, Abe. Let me hold you. Come here. No, I'm not letting you sit on my car. All right.
Well, it feels like I left it on a good note, man. Final say for you.
Yeah. What's that?
Final say. You're the champion. You got the final word. What you got?
Once again, I know it doesn't seem like it, but I will celebrate the day that Croft finally wins. Until then, good luck, preseason champs. Better luck next year.
Shots taken. All right, man. Well, get out of here, dude. Congratulations again, and we'll work out when you can get that Franklin, all right?
All right, man. Love you, man.
Love you too, man.
Later.
If you'll stay with me just one moment after this brief commercial break, we'll have your commissioner come up. Dude, why is it so damn hot in here? Burning up.
You've reached in with JD Phillips of Plumbing. I'm unable to reach the phone right now, but if you would leave a name, detailed message, and a callback number, and I'll return your call as soon as possible. Thank you, and have a good day.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
All right, bitch. I know I'm 11 minutes late, but when I call, you answer. I'm going to call you one more time. Bear with me, people. All right, that's 2 rings. That's a good sign.
Hello.
Hello, Shane Pokenis. How you doing, sir?
I'm still licking my wounds over here.
Yep. Sorry for the 11-minute delay, but hey, man. First of all, from getting in by the skin of your teeth into the playoffs to making it all the way back to the playoffs and then into the championship league, man. Congratulations. There's a lot to be said about your journey, to there. So I think maybe like a couple of weeks, maybe only one, you were considered a consolation prize contestant, right?
Yeah, it definitely was. I was definitely there. I think I was out of the top 6 for, 2 weeks. I think I got knocked out and stayed out for like 2 weeks. I'm not sure. It was at least a week, but it might have been 2.
Right.
Yeah, you guys started disregarding me and already had me in 12th place and shit.
Uh-huh.
Jordan was going to beat me and
Right.
everything else. I proved y'all motherfuckers wrong, didn't I?
Uh-huh. Yes, you did, sir. So,
to prove that you can tie your way to a championship.
Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that. That's where we're going. That's the first thing I wanted to bring up because I did not know, until I read it in the chat that you two had a 5-4 victory in both y'all's favor during the regular season, only to see a 5-5 tie and it go because he was second place go to him. So
yeah, I actually asked Walker the question when we started the week because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. We both were under the impression that we tied in the regular season. I couldn't remember if it was a 4-4 tie both times, 5-5, whatever it was. But yeah, it turns out a push because I beat him 5-4, he beat me 5-4, so it was tied going in. So I asked Walker who had the tiebreaker, and obviously he said, well, I do because I was seated higher than you. So with him being seated second and me being seated fourth, I knew I was going to have to I was going to have to beat him outright to be able to win the actual championship, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow, man. If I was on the receiving end of that, I'd be emailing somebody in Yahoo, being like, "Hey, we gotta have this shit serious. We gotta have a better tiebreaker than this, because
you just want some kind of closure. You want somebody to win.
Yeah,
regardless whether it was Walker winning or me winning, I would like to have seen a definitive winner somehow.
Right.
I don't know how you get there from where we are. I mean, obviously we're following Yahoo's rules, and they're the ones who pick it. So
right.
I got my little silver cup the next day on Monday when I woke up. There it was. Congratulations, second place.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Not what I wanted to see there, Yahoo. Leave your congratulations at Walmart.
Kept your fucking silver trophy.
Yeah. So, well, man, I see the semifinal between you and Eric. You mopped the floor with him 8-2. What did that feel like, man? Because Eric's just fiending for that number one spot, man. And I think he held on to it for like 22 weeks or, couldn't have been that, but it had to have been like 18 weeks or something.
It had to have been. I mean, once he got in first place, he stayed there. I don't think he ever left it.
Yeah,
If not for the injuries that just piled up on him, I thought he was going to win the whole thing, really. I mean, I don't see how he was balanced enough with pitching. He was deep enough on his bench and hitting. There was no reason why he couldn't have gone all the way through this thing.
Right.
But then if you look at his injuries, man, you can't come back from that. I mean, he lost bats. He lost arms. He didn't just lose bats. He lost good bats.
Yeah.
The Hunter Pence going down. Pence kind of did more than anybody expected him, I think, to do this year. And he's injury prone.
Right.
You kind of, okay, Hunter Pence went out. But when it was Hunter Pence and then J.D. Martinez was day-to-day and then Nelson Cruz was out with neck stiffness and you start throwing the names out that he had that weren't playing.
Yeah.
I was like, ouch.
Yeah.
And then you lose Blake Snell and you lose this pitcher and that pitcher. That's a lot to come back from. And Eric was pretty defeated, and I don't blame him. I'd have been pretty defeated too. That's a lot to lose in the last, second to the last week of the championship.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, he did. He did have He did have some bats going in for sure, and definitely some decent pitching. So, how crazy is it? You take every single one of the batting stats, and he took every single one of the pitching stats. That's nuts, man.
I had a strategy. I didn't doubt that I was going to take the batting stat. Not to be Walker's pitching kept him in the entire season.
Oh, yeah.
Even he would argue that. Even he makes the joke about his scrub bat is every once in a while he's going to steal batting categories because someone's going to have a down week and that's going to happen.
Right.
But if you look at his win-loss record, he clearly won. He got the second seed, so he won more games than I did. But at one point in time, my team was a little more balanced, pitching and hitting also.
Right.
By playoff time, it wasn't. I didn't have the number of starters that I had at the end of the season going into play Eric. I think I had 7 or 8 starting pitchers. I wound up with 8 starts, but 2 of those guys were 2 starters, I believe. So, I lost some pitching too there towards the end, but it was going to take a lot. Either I had to beat him in sheer numbers or, K's, his K ratios has been ridiculous all year.
Yep.
At one point in time, he had pitched 15 innings, I think, and had 28 Ks.
Yeah.
That's hard to keep up with starting pitchers if you're not starting guys that are 300K a year guys like Cole and Verlander. I don't know how many Scherzer ended up with this year, but you've got Cole, Verlander, Scherzer, and Severino, and you get 2 starts out of Garrett Cole, puts you in pretty good position.
Yeah. And I don't even remember. I'm trying to pull it up right now. Garrett Cole faced.
I almost on Wednesday, or I think it was Thursday, I had a sub-2 ERA. WHIP was already unobtainable for me. And I almost shut it down because I was at the innings limit, the minimum. And I almost shut it down with I think I had a 169 or a 179 ERA. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to chase the batting stats. I'm going to bench every fucking pitcher I have from here out.
Right.
And I'm going to try to get all 5 batting stats and keep 1 pitching stat. But to Walker's credit, come Friday, he had OBP was, so close there wasn't enough there to differentiate it.
Right.
And then stolen bases were way too close to be trying to just assume that I could win those 2 categories. So then I just said, screw it. I just played everything I had. And still, ERA didn't end up that bad. I wasn't that far off.
No.
Ks, I think, what did I lose Ks by 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 Ks.
1 win.
Wasn't a ton difference in ERA. He had me pretty good in WHIP, which doesn't surprise me for this relief pitchers and his starters. But
Right.
yeah, tough pill to swallow, but no excuses. He was right there at the top all the way through all season long, and he's the only one that plays the strategy that he plays.
Right.
And I think there's a pretty good argument this year that it works.
So he brought up a trade between you two that ultimately seems like it came right back and bit you in the ass. Do you remember the trade?
I'm pretty sure it's probably Bauer and Carpenter with Garrett Cole involved. I think that's what the trade was.
That would be the one.
Yeah, that was my all-time biggest mistake of the season. I made some trades that weren't great. I made some trades that were pretty good. That one was obviously the worst one. I just didn't see Carpenter shutting down for an entire season, and essentially that's what he did.
Right.
Hit a couple home runs there in the last week. I think he hit one on my bench, which wouldn't have mattered.
Right.
But I think he did wind up getting a solo shot for me during the week. So who knows? He might warm up. Good thing for the Cardinals if he warms up a little bit in the playoff.
Right.
But, Tyler Edmond, I think Tyler Edmond's his name, for the Cardinals that you had for a little while, and kind of was the village bicycle there towards the end a little bit.
Right.
But he's out there freaking stealing bases, and Walker, I didn't know Walker even had him. I don't know if he picked him up in one of those injury drops or what, but he was running around stealing bases and had me worried enough that I couldn't take for granted that I could win all the batting stats.
Right.
yeah, that trade fucked me. There's no doubt about it. And not only that, and I think we've had this conversation before, probably on the podcast, that when I make trades with people, I'm not just looking at my team getting better. I am definitely trying not to load somebody else's team.
Right.
And with Walker's situation being what it was at the time, I knew his pitching was good. I definitely made it better. And then, I had no clue that he was going to be able to make the run that he did with essentially 3 starting pitchers.
Right.
I mean, that's basically what he did. I think he added a pitcher here or there just to make the innings minimum once or twice during the season. But he definitely proved that if you've got some solid relief pitchers and you've got 3 top-tier starting pitchers, you can win pitching categories.
So, having that said, you think that's going to be something you're going to adopt next season? You gonna?
No, I don't know. It's not as exciting to me, I mean, I chase the long ball. I think a lot of us do. A lot of us would rather see our bats just go batshit crazy. We have an appreciation for that.
Right.
Where we kind of look at the pitching like it's just such a fine line with the pitching because one mistake is all it takes. Walker had a relief pitcher come in. I can't remember which one it was. I can't remember if it was Leclerc or somebody came in on like Friday and gave up, 2 or 3 runs maybe, and it inflated his ERA from sub-1 over 2.
Right.
Just that quick. One more RP blow up, and he can't match me on ERA, but didn't happen. And if you'll look back at his stats on Sunday, I think it was Sunday, he benched Leclerc.
Yeah.
He did not play it. And he could have. I'm pretty sure he had a spot to play it, but he didn't play it.
Yeah, and he actually pitched really well against the Yankees. He got a 1.
Yeah, I think he had 3 Ks.
3 Ks and a 0 ERA and a .60 WHIP.
Yep. But I feel like I mentioned to Walker in the chat. I don't know if you picked up on it or not. I looked at his trend on the last 3 weeks on how many save holds that he had compared to how many save holds I had. I had him whipped by a lot. I mean, I guess his pitchers weren't pitching a lot, and mine were.
Right.
And then, unfortunately, having Carlos Martinez and John Gant on the same team, the last week of the regular season, the Cardinals went on this horrific losing streak. And they didn't pitch. And they're on the same team. So if neither one of those pitch, that's 2 roster spots. The guys are not putting up any stats.
Yep.
So, but I think I had 7 and 9 the last 2 weeks that we had played. And then he had like 3 and 4 or something like that. So I felt like I was trending towards, okay, my relief pitchers are getting to play. Hopefully I can get the same hold. It just completely flipped.
All right.
His guys pitched all the time, and mine didn't pitch hardly at all. So
Talking about
another stat that you just never know with that stat because you don't know when these get, especially right now with expanded rosters. I think they said the Red Sox had 21 relief pitchers or 21 pitchers on their expanded roster.
Jesus.
Yeah, well, everybody was complaining at Cora about his strategy to have 21 pitchers on his roster. He said there's no rule against it, so I'm going to carry as many pitchers as I want.
Right.
He expanded rosters. I think he put 21 pitchers on his roster. Out of 40 or 45 guys, 21 were pitchers.
Jesus.
So, that's a Walker move.
Yeah, right? Talk about your Cardinals. I think they lost 5 in a row, and then that one win that they needed to seal their own fate, and they got it in a big way.
Yeah, they did. Sunday of last week, they had 7 days left, and the magic number for them was 4. They had to win 4 of the next 7 games to be able to lock up the pennant, and they just couldn't get it done. And the Brewers were winning, so the Brewers kept gaining and gaining and gaining, and they still only wound up edging the Brewers out of the pennant by 1 game.
Yeah.
They had a 1-game lead on the Brewers, so
Bless you.
they scratched their way back in there.
Yep.
So, what's your prediction on Cardinals Braves while we're on the on the playoffs?
I I hadn't really looked at you guys as pitching staff. I mean, you guys got Hudson and Wainwright and Flaherty. You roll out. Are you rolling out with Flaherty in game 1?
I believe they are. I think that's the plan. I can't remember what the stat was the last time that I checked it.
All right,
They were
so
in the top 3 in lowest ERA in the National League.
So you guys are rolling out with Michaelis game 1.
Okay. Because Flaherty just pitched.
Yeah,
Flaherty
and
pitched Sunday.
Keuchel for the Braves. I've never really been a Keuchel fan, only because and he pitched fine this season. Just he always leaves a lot more to be desired, and he's a ground ball inducing pitcher.
Yeah.
But he's always walking people. He's a guy that is able to get out of a jam, but he puts himself in that jam, and if he doesn't get out of it, then it could just fucking just ruin your day. So
Well, he relies on the double play ground ball.
exactly.
Yep. He'll put all these guys on base, and then they'll hit a little grounder, and then he'll get a double play out of it, and then he's safe.
Yeah, and
He dropped a 7.1 or something like that ERA on me in the championship week.
yep.
So,
Probably
not,
against a shitty ass team too. So
Yeah, I'm not a Keuchel fan at this point.
Yeah.
I would draft that guy for sure. Damn well.
well, we only signed him for a 1-year deal. So and the last 3 games that he pitched, he lost. So it's not trending in the right direction. He played Philly, got a 9 ERA. Played San Francisco, got a 3 ERA. And played the Mets and got a 7.2.
That's the one he
And,
dropped
you
on
know,
me in the championship
Yeah.
week.
So I don't trust him. And I don't trust him tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? No, it's the 3rd.
They don't play the first game till Friday.
Yeah. So we got a good chance, I think, against Michaelis. Game 2, if you guys roll out there, let me just put it this way. Whatever game you roll out with Flaherty, that's done. We're done. He is ace-type quality right now. If you roll out there with Hudson, it's like 60-40, depending on who we put on the mound. I think right now our best pitcher is Soroka, but how well will he do? Because his arm's kind of, I think they've put it out there that the first 3 pitchers that they're going to roll out with are Keuchel, Folty, and Soroka, I think, in the first 3 games. So I think it would be a good game to play Flaherty versus Soroka in terms of your management, and Hudson against Folty. So
Yeah, Hudson, his last start, he went 5 innings and he had 10 Ks.
Yeah.
With no score, no ERA.
Yeah, see?
Past week.
Yeah,
Hudson's one of the. He actually, at one point in time, and I'd have to go back and look. He was a top 5 wins guy in the National League.
right.
He was pumping wins out. I drafted the kid because I knew what he was supposed to be,
Right.
and called it the Hudson experiment. And it didn't go well in the beginning of the season at all.
Right.
But toward the end, I started seeing these 0 ERAs pop up, and he's not a high K guy, even though he got 10 last week. He's not a real high K guy. He's a little more like Keuchel, ground ball type stuff, but he was giving up a lot of solo shots and a lot of 2-shot home runs, and he kind of has gotten away from that home run ball. He's not making that mistake over the middle of the plate. So
Right.
if he can keep his nerves in check,
Well,
plus we're playing at home, so
in terms of like names, I think you guys got the bigger roster of names and people that have been there. You got probably arguably one of the best catchers in the game, and he's going to play just like he did for me. I can't believe this dude went on I think it was like a 12-game starting streak or some shit. Like, I didn't have to worry about him when I was trying to get into the playoffs. That one week that I just grabbed him up and he was dropping home runs. I'm like, fuck yeah, Yachty, get it. But he was playing every game.
he plays almost every day.
Yeah.
He gets his Sunday off here or there, or you've got a late game, like the game that they went 19 innings the other night. he didn't. I don't think he played the next day after that. But
Well, who can blame him?
He's the Cal Ripken of catchers, man. If he
Yeah.
can play, he's gonna play.
Yeah. But, you know, you guys, you got Carpenter, Goldie, Osuna, and Molina. And then you guys got a little bag of mixed, you know, young kids in there. Us, man, I feel like all we got is Freeman, Acuna, and then maybe Albies. And then those other batters, man, I just don't, you know, Markakis, okay. He's just okay. And
Yeah,
Swanson, he's
streaky.
just okay. So,
Is Culberson gonna be playing any baseball? He can't get hit in the face.
yeah, I don't know. I haven't checked up on his status. If he does, it would probably be like maybe in a game 4 if needed, you know?
That was scary, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, yeah, I saw it.
That was really freaking scary for that dude. I mean,
Yeah.
to see anybody get hit in the face is one thing. To see somebody get hit square in the face with 90 miles an hour the way he did,
Yeah.
that's a scary thing.
Oh, yeah.
Don't wish that crap on anybody, and I can't stand the Braves, but, you know, you don't wish that kind of thing on anybody.
Right. So speaking of which, you broke us into that. Who you got tonight? Woodruff versus Scherzer, Brewers, Nationals. Go.
Nats.
Okay.
Nats all day, every day with Scherzer on the mound. I don't know. It's just something about the Brewers this year without, and you know they've actually been better. I think their record, okay, has trended up somehow since Yelich went out of the lineup.
Yeah, right. That's nuts.
And not to mention, I put up the offensive numbers I did without Christian Yelich too.
Yeah, right.
So 20 home runs in the championship week is nothing to sneeze at.
Right. And then tomorrow,
That kind of production.
Tampa Bay versus the A's, Manaea versus Morton. Who you got?
That was tough because Morton makes that tough, but Manea's been pitching really good too.
Yep.
I think the A's have a better hitting lineup.
Right.
Where's that game being played?
Oakland.
A's. I'll take the A's.
All right. Well, man, I'm going to leave you with a final say. This will definitely be the longest podcast I have had all season long for sure. There was talk of, like, between Walker and I of when the Franklin will be distributed. I'll leave that up to you two to discuss. I said, you know, I could bring it to him. And then there was the obvious one of just wait till the draft. So,
And I'm fine with either way. I actually had it because you made it early. I got it. What, the night that we drafted?
yeah, I think so.
Not the night we drafted, but the night that we actually picked the draft order at your house was when I took possession of it.
Yeah.
So I've had it all season.
Yeah.
If we make the transfer, he won it. So I mean, it's his to
Okay.
parade around like the Stanley Cup. So if we make the transfer sooner than later, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I told him I was going to break it in half. He's going to have to glue it back together if we tie. So he might get it in 2 pieces by the time. No, I'm not.
He also suggested that I still do the can of beans. You know, I kind of shot that down after the dialogue that was in the chat about it. So
I just know that you got sour grapes. Like right now, I mean, I finished second in a fucking tie.
right.
You know, and Rieger got 7. You know, he stayed in it, man. Rieger was texting me during the championship week like it was week 1.
Right.
You know, and I think it was cool to see that he was still that involved in it. And he didn't know that there was going to be a prize, not a prize, or whatever.
Right.
He's just engaged because he's a competitor. Like
Yeah.
most of us are.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't want to lose.
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest thing for next season going forward is figuring out as the commissioner, and I know I put it in the chat. There's not a lot of people in the chat right now. Obviously, there wasn't a lot of people in there during the championship week. Is are we going to go to a 10-team league?
Right.
It seems like it has a lot of support, but what I don't want to do is if Ray decides to come back, Ray shouldn't be eliminated from the league. She's been here longer than I have. So if she does decide to come back and play, we either decide it's Ray and all the regulars, and then we got to figure out who goes. You know, Sean and Nicole's. If Ray decides to stay out, is it Ray and Sean? You know, that's a tough decision to make. And Sean may say, hey, you know what, I don't want to come back anyway.
Right.
And if he does that, then we're down. You know, if Ray decides, hey, you know what, I am really done, I'm not coming back, then Ray and Sean would make 2 that go out, and we got 10 anyway.
Right.
You know, whether we get to 10 teams, if that's what everybody wants to do, I would prefer, I guess, what I'm saying is I'd like to have it be voluntarily and not have to, well, we got 11, somebody's got to go.
Right.
You know, if that's what the league decides to do as the league, that's fine. That's not a decision that I want to make just arbitrarily as the commissioner to just say, oh, we're booting somebody.
Right.
You know, I know 10-team league makes a lot of sense. It gets a lot of support. It allows more players on the waiver wire. You're talking 50 extra guys if you play 10 teams instead of 12. It puts 50 extra players on the waivers. That's a lot of players.
Right.
It also allows you to back playoff weeks up. Instead of having this attrition on the last week of baseball, which is our championship week, you back that off a week and pretty much get to where teams are still competitive trying to get into the playoffs. They're not benching people, and pitchers aren't being shut down, and all the craziness that happens in that last week. You can avoid that if you go to a 10-team league.
Right.
Because you only need 20 regular season weeks for everybody to have played each other. You don't need the 22 or whatever the heck it is for everybody to play each other if you got 12.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I told Walker it's going to be a lot of dialogue for sure in the off season.
Well, we have this conversation during the off season, and then once everybody starts getting revved back up, maybe that's what, like we did last year. We have a meeting and say, this is what we want to do, and this is how we want to approach doing it. Because right now, somebody said it the other day, the off season's a long time.
Right.
You may have people, by the time baseball's, ready to kick back up, they thought they wanted to stay in and just say, you know what, I can't do it.
All right.
I got obligations, I'm too busy, I can't do it. So that may be a better time to kind of feel out whether or not we're going to go to 10 teams or not.
I got you. Well, I gave Walker a last say. You can hear his in the podcast, but you get yours as well, man. What you got?
I'll just say congratulations to Walker. You know, I wanted to do back-to-back, but I said it in the chat. I did not expect to get as far as I did.
Right.
I think I partially, I don't want to discredit what I had, but Eric definitely gets credit for getting where he got. And not for Eric landing on all those injuries the way that he did, I may not have made it to the championship anyway.
Right.
So shout out to Eric for preseason champ. It's a tough one. I know it's a tough one, and I know he was just freaking beside himself, but I'm going to leave it with that. Shout out to Eric, and come back strong next year and stop drafting injury-prone people.
All right. Well, man, I believe first pitch is about to roll out. It says the game starts at 8:08, it's 8:10, but you know how those ceremonies usually go.
It has actually already started. Max Scherzer is on the mound. It is 3 balls, 2 strikes, top of the first, no outs.
All right, play-by-play right here. All right, man.
Full count.
Well,
All right, man.
I'll see you later.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Peace out, brother.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Peace.
Bye. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Those are your last 2 remaining championship teams for our league. And we do have a new champion. And we will be discussing during the off season new rules. How many people will be coming back? How many people will be staying? Don't know. But 2019 is in the books. Put a ribbon on it. Somebody's getting some beans and somebody's getting some franks. So I hope you guys had a great season. Just remember, One trade could make the difference. Shit. I am Casey D. D's Nuts. Proudly wearing 8th place on my ass. Congratulations to Reader. Congratulations to Eric. He's still in the top 3. Robbie making a statement. Everybody have a great playoffs. Enjoy your off season. You don't have to think about baseball no more. You can just enjoy it. Go Braves. I paused the fucking music again. I always forget. You hit the stop button to... God damn it!